There is a story out today, guys, that when you read it, you're going to have one of those Zen moments. They're not showing it in the mainstream media. They're not showing it in the public. But something has happened at the UN, and it is probably the biggest smoking gun to date about the situation in Venezuela. Many people ask me, why do you focus on it? Why do you stay on this so much? We want to shove our fingers in our ears and not hear the truth about the lies we've been told about evil, terrible, horrible socialism. We want to continue to believe the easy lie told to us by our particular wing of the RD criminal bird in D.C. See, we like that lie because they made the lie easy to believe. If it were not easy to believe, then we would have had to think for ourselves. And that would have been very difficult. How fortunate for government leaders that most men do not bother themselves to think, usually only feel. The law, in its majestic equality, forbids the rich as well as the poor to sleep under bridges, to beg in the street, and to steal bread. That's one that you can maybe put in your pack for later, so to speak, and bring back out and kind of chew on for a minute. You see, there are those who are in charge at the moment who are mammon worshippers. In modern times, we would call them capitalists, because that's truly the definition of capital, money, ism. The valuing above all other things the acquisition of money, the acquisition of wealth, the acquisition of quote-unquote capital. Ergo, capitalism. In ancient times, it was called filthy lucre, or it was called mammon worshipping. So that's who those people are, just in the proper context. But this group of people that I refer to, who are in charge, have been playing this game for a while. And there was a time, not so very long ago, when somebody figured it out, and somebody tried to stop it. But they made some mistakes and got ahead of themselves, and things didn't go like they thought, leaving the door open for these mammon worshippers to take hold, take power, and to, of course, use, what is it, panem et circenses, bread and circuses, to distract the people so that they could continue with their lie. Let me tell you the story here real quick. It's 3 minutes in. Venezuela has had its voting rights suspended at the UN because it didn't pay its dues. You see, that's right. You have to pay tens of millions of dollars to the government in D.C. to purchase your seat at the United Nations, to have the ability to have a say at the United Nations. That comes with a cost in filthy lucre. And because Venezuela has been so attacked, so completely destroyed by Saudi Arabia, the most vile, disgusting kingdom probably to live since Rome, in coordination with D.C. and that filthy bird, the RD criminals that should be brought up on RICO charges, they can't vote now. See, all of you out there are probably like, wait a minute, that sounds like a great thing. We should leave the UN. How can we not pay to be part of the UN? That's interesting. Because you find yourself aligning those of you that think that you're not socialists. Your belief systems and the way you operate and the way you would have the world be when you read the Venezuelan Constitution, all of a sudden you say, wait a minute, I agree with that, I agree with that. How can I possibly be seen as agreeing with these people that Mark Levin and Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, they've all told me is terrible and evil? Because they've used psychological operations against you for years, against your parents for years, against your grandparents for years. Straw man fallacy. First thing we do is we have to redefine socialism. See, we've said what capitalism is the above all else valuing of money, of lucre. That's our goal. Number one goal, capitalism. So what is socialism? The above all valuing of the well-being of society. But you see, you can't really argue against that. That's a tough thing to argue against. So what does straw man fallacy do? We have to redefine, and use false equivalency to make people believe that socialism is something that it's not. So what are we going to do? I know what we'll do. We'll call socialism. We'll take one particular part of socialism, and then we'll go look into history, and we'll find some places where it failed. We won't tell the whole story. We'll just tell the part of the story where these groups of people that had a desire to be socialist, meaning wanting to take care of their people, made some mistakes. And we're not going to talk about the mistakes. We're just going to remember that they were socialist and they failed. Those are the only two things that we're going to talk about. And then we're going to create this false fake narrative and make it easy to believe. And then we're going to send people to the other side, which are, by the way, modern day North American Democrats. And we're going to misinform them as well. And they're going to work for us. Because they're going to find the failures, and they're going to hold on to them and cling on to them, and even reinforce our argument. That's called steelman. And that's what they've done. See, the idea of taxing the rich and then using that money to finance social programs, that's not democratic socialism. Never has been. If you want to know with whom you are standing, all you have to do is read this. And I will just let this statement stand on its own. See, here's a great way to envision or use an example if you want to go try to bring this to your friends. Preppers are criminals, gangsters, and thugs. Really? No, they're not. No, we just want to have extra food. So if something happens, we want to make sure that our loved ones are taken care of. Oh, so you want everyone else to starve. So you're for the starvation of the people, and you're a mobster and a gangster and a thug. No, not at all. Really? Well, that's exactly what the mob did. See, the mob was distrustful of the government, just like you. The mob hoarded goods, just like you. They had underground economies, just like you want to have. And, they were very much enamored with their weapons, just like you are. So many things in common. How can you deny it? How can you deny that as a prepper, you are a mobster, you are a gangster, and you're a thug, and you're for criminal activity, and you're for pimping, and you're for all of this other criminal activity? You have so much in common. How can you deny it? You see what I did there? I took some commonalities, and then I decided to broad brush. And that's exactly what's happened with evil, terrible, horrible socialism. So when you hear people talk about, well, what about Stalin, and what about Marx, and what about blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's going to fail when it's run by oligarchs. But when it's run by the people at the lowest possible level, it works. And that's what they don't want you to know. A people that values its privileges above its principles soon loses both. And that's where we're teetering right now. Because there are a lot of wonderful, fantastic privileges that come from capitalism. All of the wonderful things that line all the store shelves, and everybody has greenbacks, and everybody keeps buying and buying. Remember, that's your patriotic duty. When things start to get a little bit sideways, that's what George Bush told you to do. Go spend your money. That's your duty. That's your patriotic duty. How fortunate for governments that the people they administer don't think. Who was it that said that? I can't seem to remember. Gosh, I'll have to look that up. And I guess we'll leave with this one. I'm not afraid of an army of lions led by a sheep. I'm afraid of an army of sheep led by a lion. So for those of you who are still under some deluded idea that DC will have anything more to say in Venezuela, I've got news for you. They may be an army of sheep, but they're led by a lion. And that lion has reverberated throughout history. There was Simon Bolivar, Chavez, and now Maduro. We are halfway through January of 2019. They started this overthrow on the edge of collapse talk in 2016. Think about that. Like, share, subscribe.